For 2 years of my life, I lived in a small country in South America called Ecuador, teaching English at a kindergarten to 12th grade school in the southern part of Quito, working with the United States program, the Peace Corps. In that experience of living and working in Latin America completely changed how I live my life. It taught me how to slow down, relax, and enjoy the simple things in life. Which is something that, quite frankly, we do not know how to do here in the United States. And it's clear when you look at our society. I mean, the American way is a stressful way of life, where we're constantly busy living life like it's a grind, constantly chasing joy and meaning in a very materialistic, superficial way, and we're always pissed off on things that do not matter. And to be completely honest, we Americans could learn so much from our neighbors south of the border in their rich way of life. And so in this video, voy a hablar sobre mi gente allá en América Latina and share 8 Latin American habits for a slow and simple life. And so let's start off with the basics and our first habit of walking slow. Now, I am sure that you already know this, but in the last Olympics, Paris 2024, Ecuador won top prize gold medal in speed walking. Which is the most ironic thing, because when they're not competing in the Olympics, Ecuadorians walk slow. I mean, so slow. On average, Ecuadorians walk 3 to 4 times slower than Americans. And when I heard about this Olympic win, I messaged my Ecuadorian friend to congratulate him and joked about how ironic it is because Ecuadorians walk so slow. And he said something very profound. He said, "We take fast walking as a sport, not a daily practice, because there is no hurry in Ecuador." In the beginning of my time in Ecuador, the pace in which Ecuadorians walked really annoyed me, where I thought, why do you walk so slow? I've got places to be. But after a while, I started to embrace it because I realized, why am I in a rush? I'm the one that needs to slow down. You probably don't realize this, but here in the United States, we walk extremely fast, which makes us always feel rushed and hurried throughout the day. And one Latin American habit that we should all adopt is choosing to walk at a much slower pace, not just focusing so much on the destination, but also enjoying the journey. 2, make the time for lunch. One big difference between American and Ecuadorian eating habits is that here in the United States, our biggest meal of the day is dinner, but in Ecuador, lunch is the biggest meal of the day. And when you really think about it, the reason why dinner is the biggest meal of the day here in the United States is because of our busy lives. We are too busy to have a proper lunch. I mean, some people are so busy. They don't eat lunch altogether, or they just get something quick and eat it at their desk. Our busy schedules don't allot us the time to stop and enjoy a proper lunch. Whereas in Ecuador, regardless of what is going on throughout the day, they will always stop in the middle of the day and eat a big lunch together, whether that means going home to eat with their family or having a lunch out with their coworkers. Lunch in the middle of the day is their biggest meal. In fact, in Ecuador, they don't even really eat dinner. They call dinner merienda, which means a light snack. In our capitalistic society, we are far too busy to stop and take the time to enjoy lunch. But one Latin American habit that we all need to adopt is taking a pause in the middle of the day, 30 minutes to an hour, to stop and enjoy lunch. It helps break up the day, and it's much better for your body. 3, be spontaneous. So when I was living in Ecuador, for 9 months of my time there, I lived with 2 different host families. Families are extremely important in Latin American culture, and living with a family helps you, 1, learn Spanish quicker, and 2, understand the culture deeper. And one thing I learned very quickly while living with these families is that people are much more spontaneous than they are here in the United States. I mean, in Ecuador, it is completely normal for people to come visit your house uninvited and unannounced at any moment of the day to sit down and hang out. Or if you're out at night and see someone you know drinking a beer, you will stop what you're doing to enjoy beer with them. And being spontaneous ultimately made life funner because it created many unexpected experiences. Whereas here in the United States, we do not like to be spontaneous. We have detailed calendars and need to plan out simple things weeks in advance. And I think this makes our life a bit more dull because we always know what's coming. And another habit that we should all embrace is choosing to be a little bit more spontaneous in life. Instead of planning out every single hour on your calendar, just be spontaneous and do things on a whim. I think it makes life much more adventurous and it slows down time because you have many unexpected things happen. 4, embrace free stuff. Now, when comparing the United States to Ecuador, one advantage that we have over them is economic opportunity. Here in the United States, you can always find an opportunity to make money, and because everyone has money to some extent, we tend to chase enjoyment in a materialistic way by spending money and buying stuff. But in Ecuador and many Latin American countries, this is not the case. Finding a steady paycheck is nearly impossible. I mean, few people have stable jobs. And most people just have some sort of hustle that barely allows them to afford life necessities. And because they don't have as much money, they chase enjoyment and joy from life in a very different way by embracing the free things. I mean, on the weekends, the parks are full of families walking around enjoying the day. Every month, there are small parades with packed streets of people, and they are always having home gatherings doing things together. Although Ecuador doesn't have the same economic opportunities that we have here in the United States, when I was living in Ecuador on a daily basis, I would see people smile and laugh a lot more than here in the United States. And coming from a very consumerist culture, this might be hard to understand, that happiness doesn't just come from materialistic possessions, but it can also come from the most simple things in life. And I personally believe that life is much richer when you choose to embrace these simple free things in life. 5, lower your expectations. Another difference when you compare cultures is that here we are obsessed with order and efficiency and have detailed calendars, timetables, and people are very serious. And I think because we have this very serious approach to life, we have very high expectations on things. And when something doesn't go to plan, we get very upset or we don't know how to handle it. Whereas in Latin America, life is much more chaotic and things aren't efficient. Where plans can change very quickly, nothing runs on time, and people are more willing to go with the flow. And because things are a bit less efficient, I think people have lower expectations, and when things don't go to plan, they don't worry and just go with the flow. And I think when you compare these two approaches to life, here, because we have such high expectations, we live much more stressful lives, whereas there, they have lower expectations and don't stress out as much and are overall happier. When you adopt the habit of lowering your expectations, you aren't met with as much disappointment and stress when things go wrong, and I think you're overall much happier. Next, accept the chaos of life. So as I said here, we are obsessed with order and efficiency, and when you analyze our society, it shows. We build our highways in perfectly straight lines. We admire companies who focus on innovation and efficiency, and we measure academic success through standardized testing. And I think that the reason we do these things is because it makes us feel as if we have control over life. However, the truth is, life is chaotic. We actually don't have much control over what goes on in the world. And I believe that because we think we have so much control over this world, we're met with stress and disappointment when things happen that are out of our control. Whereas there in Latin America, they accept that life is chaotic. And because they accept it, they are met with less stress and less disappointment. And although I do see the benefits on living in a society that is ordered and efficient, I do think that we have to accept that we do not have that much control over what happens in this world. The only thing we do have control over is how we choose to respond. And if you accept the chaos of life, I think you will be much happier and live a less stressful life. 7. Enjoy the minuscule tasks of life. In the United States, our society is very advanced and very efficient, and we have created many ways to avoid doing these minuscule tasks of life. Like we get our groceries delivered through Instacart, we get our food delivered through Uber Eats, and we do most of our shopping online on Amazon. You don't ever have to leave your house here in the United States, but there in Latin America, society isn't as advanced and things aren't as efficient, and so you have to do these minuscule tasks on your own. I mean, every Sunday when I was living in Ecuador, I would spend a few hours going to the market to get my fruits and vegetables for the week. I would eat at lunch spots and talk to the staff and observe day-to-day life. And I was out running errands, having more spontaneous experiences. And I think when we outsource these minuscule tasks of life, we end up missing out on some of the most beautiful things in life. We miss out on the spontaneous run-ins. We miss out on observing our fellow human beings. And we miss out on just being part of the community. It's like that scene in the movie Click, where he fast forwards through the boring parts of life to ultimately realize that he missed out on the most beautiful things of life. And so reject this advanced tech world of outsourcing all the minuscule tasks and instead adopt a more simple Latin American approach and embrace the boring monotony of the minuscule tasks that ultimately make life beautiful. And the final habit is work to live instead of living to work. Aquí en Estados Unidos, we identify a lot with our jobs, and we live our life living to work, which creates this stressed out society where life seems like a grind. Whereas there in Latin America, a job is simply a means to make money. They have the attitude of working to live. Now, I don't want it to come across that I am glamorizing places with very little economic opportunity, because the truth is, if you do not have economic opportunity, it is very hard to enjoy life. It's hard to enjoy things when you're struggling to just put food on the table. But what I am saying, and what I want you to take away from this video, is that if you are from a country with a good economy, you are in a very unique situation where you can get access to economic opportunity. And if you play your financial cards right, then you have the privilege to slow down and live more how you want to live, which is an opportunity that many people in this world do not have. It is an opportunity that people born in unfortunate circumstances, to no fault of their own, would drop everything they have and risk it all for a slight chance to get. However, we don't see this opportunity that we have. We take our economic opportunity for granted, blow all of our money on a bunch of useless crap, and become financial slaves to soulless corporations, the American way. But I challenge you, if you live in an economically prosperous country, to see your advantages, take advantage of them, play your financial cards right, and live your best life possible, and adopt these 8 Latin American habits and work to live, not the other way around. And with that, muchas gracias, que tengan un buen día, nos vemos chicos.